Gopalati Sisuvacha Ekadeva
Shri Shukavacha, Shri Shukadev Goswami said, Ekada, once, Deva, to worship the demigod Lord Shiva, Yatrayam, on a trip, Gopala, the cowherd men, Jata Kautuka, eager, Anobhi, with wagons, Anadut, to oxen, Yuktehi, yoked, Prayayu,
went forth
Te,
day
Ambikavanam,
Ambikavanam
to the Ambika forest.
to the Ambika forest.
Translation and purport by the Divine Grace A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada.
Jai.
Shukadev Goswami said, one day the cowherd men eager to take a trip to worship Lord Shiva traveled by bullock carts to the Ambika forest. Purport: according to Srila Jiva Goswami, the word Ekada here indicates the occasion of Shivratri. He further mentions that Ambika one is in Gujarat province, near the city of Siddhapura. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur adds that the departure of the cowherd men specifically took place on the 14th lunar day of the dark fortnight of the month of Falguna. Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti also quotes authorities who claim that Ambikavan lies on the banks of the Saraswati river, northwest of Mathura. Ambikavan is notable because within it are the deities of Sri Shiva and his wife, goddess Uma. So, along with this verse, we will also read the next two verses, then we get the full picture. So, Tatra Snatva Saraswatyam Devam Pashupati Vibhum Anarchur Arhanair Bhaktya Devim Cha Nripate Ambikam. Translation: O king, after arriving there, they bathed in the Saraswati and then devotedly worshipped with various paraphernalia the powerful Lord Pashupati and his consort, goddess Ambika. Verse number 3. Gavo Hiranyam Vasamsi Madhu Madvanam Adrita Brahmanebhyo Dadu Sarve Devona Priyatam Iti. The cowherd men gave the Brahmanas gifts of cow, gold, clothing, and cooked grains mixed with honey. Then the cowherds prayed, "May the Lord be pleased with us." Usuhu Saraswati Tire Jalam Prasya Yatavrata Rajanim Tam Mahabhaga Nanda Sunanda Kadeyaha. Translation: Nanda Sunanda and other greatly fortunate cowherds spent that night on the bank of the Saraswati, strictly observing their vows. They fasted, taking only water. Purport: Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti explains that Sunanda is the younger brother of Nanda Maharaj. Om Jnanatimirandasya Jnanajapshanakaya Chakshurunitam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Gadamaya Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Yudapadakamalam Shri Gurun Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sadhu Jatam Sahagan Gurunatantikam Tam Sajivam Sadvaitam Savadhutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahaganrita Shri Vishakamitamscha He Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandhu Jagapate Gopesha Gopika Kant Radha Kant Namosute Tapta Kanchana Gaurami Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusde Devi Pranamami Panchakalpatarupeshcha Kripasindudev Sapatana Varnebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namaha Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhara Srivasadi Gaurabhaktivinoda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Ram 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 Hare Hare. So, Hare Krishna. So today we are covering, it's like nearly a year after I'm sitting for a Bhagavatam class and there's been a lot of travels related to my work and academics and all that. So really fortunate to meet you all here. And today's topic is going to be very interesting on the history of the Bhagavatam. So Srimad Bhagavatam. So before we proceed further into this session, I'll give a brief background of what this session is about and what the work which we are going to see today is all about. So this is the presentation right here. So the topic is going to be about Srimad Bhagavatam's historicity. And when we speak of historicity, I mean to say the historical antiquity, or you could say the ancientness, how old it is. Because when you search on academics, when you search on Google, when you search on Wikipedia, you will find that Srimad Bhagavatam is given dating of a mere 1,000 years. When you search online, and sometimes we might find people coming to Krishna consciousness questioning this, that we find everywhere that Srimad Bhagavatam is dated to be just 1,000 years. How can you say that it's 5,000 years? So this seminar is specifically for devotees. It is not for the common mass, but it's for devotees to substantiate their practice, substantiate and defend to anyone the facts about our scriptures. So this is based on Srimad Bhagavatam 10.34.1 as we saw here in this shloka. 10.34 and shlok number 1, 2, 3. All these three verses are very important. So, how many of you have read this verse before? 10th chapter, 34th. Many of you must have read it. So, if you have seen carefully, there is a great detail presented here, both in the translation and in the purport. You notice something here? Very interesting detail is given here. If somebody can share.
The location. The location.
Location, okay. And?
What trio was it? A trio, the deities.
Okay, deities and? If you watch carefully, it says that they travelled by bullock carts to worship Lord Shiva, and they bathed in the Saraswati river, devotedly worshipped with various paraphernalia, and they went from Braj, Vrindavan and surrounding regions. And if you see, two historical details are presented here. According to Srila Jiva Goswami, the word Ekada refers to Shivratri. He further mentioned that Ambikavan, because there is a forest mentioned here. As you can see here, this is a forest mentioned, Ambikavanam. So they went from Braj to Ambikavanam to worship Lord Shiva. So they went from Braj to Ambikavan. The location of Ambikavan is given here. It is said that Ambikavan is located on the banks of Saraswati river, and Ambikavan is located northwest of Mathura, according to Srila Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur. Northwest of Mathura. Okay, keep these two details in mind as we go into the presentation today. So today's seminar is going to be about how old is Srimad Bhagavatam from the historical perspective. We will be studying, we will be seeing archaeological data, we will be seeing, based on these shlokas which I showed you, we will be showing tons of historical data based on which we will be presenting a solid timeline for the Srimad Bhagavatam. We also have a separate seminar on chronology of the kings in Srimad Bhagavatam, but I will not be touching it today or tomorrow. This will be specifically on the archaeological evidences of Srimad Bhagavatam. So, to begin with, I'll just show you this. This is from Wikipedia. In Wikipedia, Srimad Bhagavatam is dated like this. See, based primarily on the earliest known written references of Abhinav Gupta and L. Biruni, academics estimate the date of origin of Bhagavad Puran to be between 800 to 1000 CE. Can you imagine that? Srimad Bhagavatam to be dated to mere 1200 years old. And generally, this is what is floated around in mainstream academics, and also if you search online, this is what comes up. See, as discussed in the manuscript section of the Bhagavad Puran article, it is impossible to accurately date Vedic literature as Indian culture. See, they themselves are denying that also. As Indian culture emphasized oral tradition over written. Okay, so there is contradiction in that. But anyway, the generally accepted dating is Srimad Bhagavatam is around 1200 years old. So, anybody has any thoughts to share on this? They are saying that Srimad Bhagavatam is just mere 1200 years old. You want to share something on this? What do you think? Yeah.
Yeah, and who wrote this article, and could you get in contact with them and show them your research because it's scientifically based?
Yeah, we'll come to that.
Yeah.
Okay, so this is the generally accepted perspective of the dating of Srimad Bhagavatam. When we see the Vedic scriptures, the entire Vedic canon, the Vedic scriptures, they are divided into two categories. One is Shruti and Smriti, we all are aware of that. And in Shruti we have the Vedas, the Samhitas, Brahmanas, Aryaka, Upanishad, and we have the Upavedas, and then Vedanga, Kalpa, Shiksha, Vyakarana, Nirukta, Chanda, and Jyotisha. Then we come to Smriti, the Smritis, and we have in Smriti the ritual Shastras, Tantra, Pancharatra, Purana, Itihas. Itihas, Ramayana and Mahabharata are part of this. And we have the 6 darshanas, Shrauta Sutra, Grihya Sutra, Dharma Sutra, Dharma Shastras. And then we have in the Tantras, the Rajasic, Tamasic and Sattvic Tantras. And in the Puranas, we have the 18 major and 18 minor Puranas. And in the Darshanas, we have Vedanta, Mimamsa, Nyaya, Vaisheshika, Yoga and Sankhya. So this is the entire Vedic corpus, right, going back to 5000 years. Now the thing is that you cannot just cherry pick certain scriptures and say that these are, given at a later date. I just want to confirm, you all are able to understand my accent? Is it understandable?
If you can speak a little slowly, please.
Little slowly.
If it is possible, thank you.
Okay, I'll speak slowly. So, this is the entire Vedic corpus. All the Vedic scriptures shown in one single image. Okay? So now, what we will do is we will come step by step behind. We'll go from here, from this point onwards, 2025. We will be going back and going back to 5000 years and present that Srimad Bhagavatam is actually positioned at 5000 years ago from a historical and archaeological point of view. So we will go back from this point. So that's the seminar about. But we'll just give a brief background of how this entire wrong dating started, how the British gave the wrong dating or falsified dating. When you see in the 18th century, the British colonials wanted to destroy the Vedic culture. They gave wrong translations, they gave mistranslations. So as you can see, this famous person, he never even visited India, but he wrote translations, hundreds and hundreds of Vedic literatures he had translated. He's from Germany. So he wrote these translations and he wanted to get rid of the Vedic culture of Bharat forever. So he was creating a lot of translations. And there were other scholars as well. As you can see here in this quote, the Indians cannot understand that our religion is the universal religion on earth and that they can only produce mere fables and fantasies. Only quote unquote stories. They don't have any historical basis. So this was the mindset during the British colonial period. So the goals of colonial research was to wipe out the Vedic culture, right, and loot the assets of Bharat, destroy the education system, give wrong translations, promote enslaved mentality, and so on. So we also had a theory which was floated around during the British colonial period that there was no such person by the name Krishna. There was no such person by the name Krishna, and Krishna is actually derived from Christ. Can you imagine that? Christ was the original person and Krishna was derived from a personality named Christ. But as we will see further in the seminar, we'll see that Krishna has evidences going back to 2400, 3000, 3500 and so on, all the way to 5000. So this similarity was, they tried to cast the similarity, that Krishna is also cowherd and Jesus Christ is shepherd, right? He is a preacher of religion, he is also a preacher of religion. And see, there are so many similarities, and the name is similar. So Christ is the original personality, Krishna came later. It was created by the Brahmanas, the cunning Brahmanas, to convert innocent people. Right? So what we will do in today's session, we are going to go step by step behind. We are step by step, we will go back, and we will see the archaeological and historical perspective of the dating of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, my question to you all, what do you think is the date of this book? This book which is published. How old is this book? Any guesses?
It's written inside.
That's true. But how old is this book?
20 years.
Sorry?
20 years.
Great, that's a good answer. Maybe 10 to 20 years. Right? Because I'm not speaking of the shlokas, I'm speaking of the book itself when it was published. 10 to 20 years back. But how old is the shlokas? How old are the shlokas? The verses? Sanatana, yes. But they were written at a specific point of time, for the first time ever. Right? So when it could have been written down for the first, because we are Shruti tradition, we don't write it down. But for Kali Yuga, it was decided that we need to bring it down in the written form. So for the first time ever, it would have been written down at some point. When would this have been written for the first time? Any guesses? Approximately?
1,000 years ago.
5,000 years ago. I will be also getting to the exact date when Srimad Bhagavatam was compiled. Right? That also will be coming. So the thing is that now we'll be doing backtracking the dates. We'll start with this. See, this is Ashwalayana Grihya Sutra. As you might have seen here, this is a text. As you can see here, there are something called as the Sutra literature. Here we go. Grihya Sutras. Okay, there is something called as the Grihya Sutras. Now these are specifically for the Grihasthas of the Vedic tradition. The Grihasthas of the Vedic tradition of the Vedic period, when the Vedas were written down for the first time, they were following what we call as the Grihya Sutra. Griha means in the home. So the Grihastha of the Vedic period, when the Vedas were written down for the first time, so they were following this tradition, which is they were following Vedic traditions in their home, and they were having many rituals and practices. And one such practice is mentioned here in this famous book called as Ashwalayana Grihya Sutra. Now what is Ashwalayana Grihya Sutra? It is written by Ashwalayana Muni, sage Ashwalayana, and he writes that in that he recites the Rika. Rika means Rig. He thereby satiates the gods with oblations of milk. In that he recites the Yajurveda, with oblations of ghee, the Samans, Samaveda, with oblations of honey, the Atharvan and Angiras, Atharvaveda, with oblations of Soma, the Brahmana, Kalpa, Gatha, Narasamsis, Itihasa, and Purana. So if you can get an idea, these are Smriti literatures, Griha Sutras. They are going back to 5,000 years, and they are speaking of a literature by the name of Puranas, which were prominent during that period when the Vedas were written down for the first time. Now this is just a brief overview. We'll be going step by step behind, starting with the same argument which Academia gives us. Academia tells logic fits. The logic is so funny. They say that based primarily on the written references of Abhinav Gupta and Al-Biruni. Now let's break down that. Who is Al-Biruni? Al-Biruni was a traveler who came from Afghanistan. You must have heard this famous king by the name of Ghajini who destroyed Somnath temple for 16 consecutive times. So Al-Biruni was the associate of Ghajini. So he used to come to India and he studied India in great detail, and he wrote this book on India. Al-Biruni wrote a book on India, and in that book he gives shlokas of the Srimad Bhagavatam. Can you understand? A 10th century traveler named Al-Biruni is referring to shlokas, verses from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore we do not find, and what Academia says, we do not have verses much before that from other books, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam should be slightly before the period of Al-Biruni. Do you understand the logic? Do you understand the logic? Srimad Bhagavatam was referred for the first time by Al-Biruni in his book 1000 years back, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam has to be slightly before that. Slightly before that. It cannot be much before. Why not much before? But that's how Academia works, especially in regards to the Vedic tradition. So Srimad Bhagavatam has to be just slightly before the period of Al-Biruni. Now they also take references of Abhinav Gupta. Abhinav Gupta again is around that period, 9th century and so on. He has given references of shlokas from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam should be around slightly before that. Now, does this logic sound very scientific to you?
No.
Like, somebody is referring to it doesn't mean that he is the, most ancient reference. There might be references before, it might have got destroyed, you might not have researched it, you might not have done comprehensive work, but we just claim, the earliest known references is from Al-Biruni and Abhinav Gupta, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam has to be mere 1,100 years old or 1,200 years old. So this is the kind of logic which works for dating the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we'll come step by step behind. Now we come to His Divine Grace Srila Prabhupada's writings, and we see beautiful counteracting of this logic. Srila Prabhupada writes, and he in fact says in his morning walks in multiple times that, see, what happened is there was a writer, I would say he was a commentator on the Srimad Bhagavatam by the name Bopadeva. How many of you heard this person's name? Bopadeva. Srila Prabhupada often writes that there was a person named Bopadeva, and these fools, they say that Bopadeva is the one who wrote Srimad Bhagavatam. There is no proof for it. It is Vyasadeva. Prabhupada keeps repeating, as you can see here. It says, Sa Samhitam Bhagavatim Kritvanukramya Chatmajam Shukam Adhyapayam Asha Nivritti Niratam Munihi. So this Samhita means Vedic literature. There are many rascals. They say that Bhagavad was not written by Vyasadeva. It was written by some Bopadeva. They say like that. Now, where is Bopadeva? Now let's come to the point of dating of Bopadeva. Bopadeva is historically dated to at around 13th century, which is around 800 years back. So 800 years back, Bopadeva had come, and he had given explanations and commentaries on the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam must have been written by Bopadeva. This was the logic in the 1970s. In the 1970s, when Srila Prabhupada was preaching around in the West, many people used to come to him and say, this is just written by Bopadeva, it's not written by Vyasadeva. See, in academics they are teaching us. And Prabhupada said, this is nonsense. 13th century, can you imagine? Just 800 years old, Srimad Bhagavatam. This was the theory which was floated around when Srila Prabhupada was preaching here in the West. So now, This Gopadeva theory is completely given up now because they found evidences of Al-Biruni, as we can see here, Al-Biruni and Abhinav Gupta's writings refer to the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam must be at least 1200 years old. This is the current academic understanding. Now let's dig a little deeper. So this is Bopadeva's writings. Bopadeva has written this Bopadeva Satakam. It is largely based on the Srimad Bhagavatam. It's explanation on the Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? So it deals with many shlokas and many commentaries based on the Srimad Bhagavatam. And then there was a prominent theory which was floated around that Srimad Bhagavatam was brought out for the first time by the Alvars. Have you heard of the great Acharyas, Sri Vaishnava Acharyas by the name Alvars? So this theory was floated around that Srimad Bhagavatam was written by the Alvars because they are the ones who are Jai. So Srimad Bhagavatam is given by the Alvars because Alvars are the ones who are, spreading bhakti, devotion around, and they are referring to many shlokas from the Srimad Bhagavatam, and therefore Srimad Bhagavatam has to be nearly 900 years old. 900 years old. Okay, now I'm starting from 700, 800. I'll be going till 5000. So it's a historical journey. We'll be going back and dating the Srimad Bhagavatam based on Shastras and all the literatures and available archaeological evidences. So that's the journey we are going to follow. Now, this is the Guru of Shankaracharya. How many of you heard of this person's name? Gaudapada. This is the Guru of Sripad Shankaracharya. And Gaudapada is dated to 8th century CE, around 1200 years back. And in the writings of Gaudapada, teacher of Shankaracharya, he mentions in his Uttara Gita Bhashya and in his commentary on Sankhya Karika, he refers to shlokas in the Srimad Bhagavatam. And he is dated to 1200 years. Now imagine. Now we'll follow the same logic what academics is giving us. If there is an earliest reference, it must be little before that. The date must be little before that. Right? So we'll take their own logic and counter them. Okay? So now Gaudapada is referring to Srimad Bhagavatam in his books Uttara Gita Bhashya and Sankhya Karika. So therefore, Srimad Bhagavatam must be much before that. What do you think? What could be the most acceptable quote-unquote academic dates of Srimad Bhagavatam? If you find an 8th century literature which is referring to Srimad Bhagavatam, what do you think? 7th century, 6th century, or maybe 5th century. Okay, so let's go a little earlier. Now this is a very famous temple when we were traveling all over India and collecting the archaeological evidences of Krishna and Mahabharata. I was stunned and struck by seeing this temple. This temple is in Kanchipuram. How many of you have been to Kanchipuram, South India, by any chance? Okay, if you go to South India, please visit this beautiful city called as Kanchipuram. And there you will find a lot of Vaishnava temples established by Sripad Ramanujacharya. And in Kanchipuram, there is this very famous temple built by the Pallava kings from the Pallava dynasty. Okay? And this temple is dated to 7th century CE, which is around 1400 years ago. You get the point? 1400 years ago, this temple has been carved. Now, we'll give you one amazing historical detail. See, in Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 1, Chapter 4, I think it's Chapter 4 where all the forms of the Lord are described. Anyone knows? In the 4th chapter of Srimad Bhagavatam, there's different forms of the Lord, different avatars of the Lord are described in a specific order. The most important thing right now to understand is that, okay, I'll show the photos. You see, these are the photos. Can you see here? These are different avatars of the Lord which are carved and shown in the temple. Okay? Narasimha is here and some other avatars are also shown here. Varaha we can see. So these are original photos which we took from the temple. Now coming back to the temple has carvings. Like if you have a temple wall like this, 22 avatars of the Lord are carved. How many? 22. Starting in this order. Purusha avatar, then Brahma, 4 Kumaras, Narada, Naranarayan, Kapila, Dattatreya, Yajna, Rishabha, King Prithu, Matsya, Kurma, Dhanvantri, Mohini, Narsimha, Vamana, Parshunam, Vyasa, Ramachandra, Balram, Krishna, Buddha and Kalki. This is the order given in Srimad Bhagavatam, and this is the number given in Srimad Bhagavatam, which is 22. Srimad Bhagavatam gives 22 incarnations and it gives them in this precise exact order. Are you able to get the point what I am trying to say here? No other Puranas, be it Vayu Puran, Vishnu Puran or any other Purana does not contain the order of the avatars in this format, in this sequence, and neither do they describe 22 avatars. It's only Srimad Bhagavatam which gives this order, and only Srimad Bhagavatam gives in this sequence in this number 22. Okay, so far clear?
Yeah.
It's quite silent. Am I able to explain this to you?
Yeah.
Because we are going deeper in, now we are going to go more and more deeper into dating of Srimad Bhagavatam. Is it clear so far?
Yeah.
Okay. So this is the exact order given in Srimad Bhagavatam. First canto, chapter 4. And this is the temple's photo, and these are different photos of deities from the temple. Now imagine if a temple is being carved with the exact 22 avatars as given in Srimad Bhagavatam, and this temple is dated to 7th century, which is around 1400 years back. So how old would be the Srimad Bhagavatam?
1 year before.
That's the brilliant logic. Just a little before, cannot be much before. Right? So this temple is around 1400 years old. 1400 years old. This temple has been carved 1400 years before. So Srimad Bhagavatam should be much more before than this temple, right? Like for example, now we have, for instance, if we have Krishna's form being worshipped here, it's because we know Lord Krishna had appeared, therefore we are worshipping. In general, common mass would not worship Lord Krishna 6000 years ago. Some great souls might do that, but in general people are not aware of Krishna 6000 years ago or 7000 years ago. Or people might not worship Chaitanya Mahaprabhu 1000 years back, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came around 600 years back. I'm speaking from a common public point of view. We know that Acharyas are aware of the Lord's incarnation, but in general, people, common mass are not aware. So if Srimad Bhagavatam's, if some temple is carved based on Srimad Bhagavatam, so what does it mean? That people were aware of Srimad Bhagavatam in South India, in Kanchipuram, 1400 years back, and therefore the Bhagavatam was so important that they needed to show that in the temple walls. So how old could be the Srimad Bhagavatam? Definitely much before that, right? So now we come to another interesting detail. This is from, now do not take the shlokas per value, you have to read the Bhagavatam. You have to read the Bhagavatam, but this is something given by the Jains. So during the Jain period, the Jains were very prominent and active in India in a certain point of time. And in their book called as Nandi Sutra, which is a very important book for the Jains, it was instructed, do not read the Bhagavatam. Probably they were very worried about the impact of it. These literatures were told, please do not read these literature. If you are a devout Jain, do not read these literatures. And it mentions Mahabharata, Ramayana, Purana Bhagavatam. Purana Bhagavatam. Bhagavad Puran is referred as Purana Bhagavatam. Purana Bhagavatam and Mathura Vritti, Sankhya Karika, etc. Do not read Srimad Bhagavatam, because if you read, what will happen? Do not read it. So this literature is 1000. Any guesses? This is 1800 years old literature. Nandi Sutta. And it says, do not read the Bhagavatam. Do not read it. Which means, what does it mean? What does it mean?
Existed slightly before.
Yes, same logic. Slightly before. It cannot be much before. So Srimad Bhagavatam should be slightly before that. So if that is the case, then we could date the Srimad Bhagavatam to at around 2000 years. With that same logic. Right? Date the Srimad Bhagavatam to 2000 years. Now this seminar is a long one. There will be, like, as you can see, there are many topics. We'll go deeper. We'll be coming up till 2500 years or 3000 years for today. And we'll continue with our historical journey of reaching 5000 years tomorrow. Okay, so stay tuned with that ride, historical ride. Now, coming to this. So can you understand this is 1800-year-old literature which is specifically telling its followers, do not read. You might find also in the West people telling, do not read the Bhagavad Gita as it is. I mean, I've seen some of my friends, Hindu friends, who say that do not read specifically ISKCON's Bhagavad Gita. It's quite ridiculous. So, no, because this book is available, ISKCON is established, Bhagavad Gita as it is there. That's why somebody has to say don't read it. Otherwise, why would they say? Right? You have this book and therefore you have to say that don't read it. Now therefore, this literature, Nandi Sutta is saying, do not read, which means it was there. And they were worried about the impact of it. They were worried about the impact of it, yes.
How did they date this literature?
This literature is based on, dating is based on chronology of the kings which are mentioned in the literature. Like the kings which are mentioned in the literature, based on that we are able to get an approximate dating around the 2nd and 3rd century CE. You can also Google it up. I mean, the dates are not always accurate, but regarding Nandi Sutta, the dates are accurate, which are given online. Okay? So, do not read the Srimad Bhagavatam. This verse is around 1800 years old. So, clearly goes to show that they were concerned. What if the person reads the Srimad Bhagavatam, is impacted, and we lose it? Because Srimad Bhagavatam is definitely contagious. It's very contagious. The Leelas of Krishna described in the Srimad Bhagavatam, the way it is described, and especially as we go deeper into the further cantos, we see how nectarian the Srimad Bhagavatam is. So, of course, it's very concerning. You do not want to lose your people. So, do not read the Srimad Bhagavatam. Now, this is 1000. How many? 1800 years. We come a little before. Now this is 2000. We are entering into pre-Christian era now. We are entering into pre-Christian era right now. And this is going to be interesting. We are entering 2000 years and before. Now, the shlokas of this, if you like, I will present it tomorrow. But I'll give you a brief idea today. This is from the literature by the name of Paripadal. To give you an idea, we all know Sanskrit is a very ancient language, the original language. But there is also a language in India which is quite ancient, and that is Tamil. The language Tamil is also quite ancient. Around the recorded evidences of, among all the literatures after Sanskrit, this is the second most ancient language in India, Tamil. And Tamil has literatures going back to 2500 or 2800 years old, which is quite a lot, considering from the academic point of view. And in Tamil language, there are literatures which speak about the religion, culture, tradition during the period. And in Tamil literature, there is a famous book by the name of Paripadal, which is around 2300 years old. Now in Paripadal, and some other literatures of that period, there is specific description of the Viraha Bhakti between Krishna and the gopis. So, I'm pretty sure you must be aware of the concept of Viraha Bhakti, that how the gopis are feeling separation from Krishna and they want to get united with Krishna, but they are feeling those ecstasies and symptoms of love by thinking of Krishna, being away from him. Viraha Bhakti, devotion in separation. Right? Devotion in separation from Krishna. Now the concepts of Viraha Bhakti which are given in these Tamil literatures is strikingly similar to that of the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Right? I'll be covering the exact verses also tomorrow in greater detail. But just to give you an idea, the Viraha Bhakti mentioned in these literatures are exactly in line with Srimad Bhagavatam. It does not match with any other literatures. And Krishna in these literatures is referred by the name of multiple names. You must have heard of this famous city called as Tirupati. Have you heard?
Yes.
So the full name of Tirupati is Tirumala Tirupati. Tirumala Tirupati. Now in Tamil literatures, Krishna is identified by the name of Tirumal. Tiru is Shri. The word Shri becomes Tiru in Tamil. And Mal. Mal means a giant mountain, or Mal also means dark. Krishna was dark. So Tirumal literally means Sri Krishna. Right? Tirumal literally means Sri Krishna. And there are multiple verses in these Tamil literatures which refers to Krishna as Tirumal and many other names of Krishna in their own way in Tamil language. And Viraha Bhakti is prominently shown in these Tamil literatures. Prominently shown the devotion and separation between the gopis and Krishna. The difference here is it is not exactly the gopis, but it was the girls who were like maid servants of the king. They were feeling separation of Krishna, and they used to write shlokas and verses. And the poet who wrote these books, he describes. He says these girls are feeling separation from Krishna. And when you study those feelings and emotions, they are exactly in line with what we find in the 10th canto of Srimad Bhagavatam. Now these verses we will cover in greater detail tomorrow. But I guess this will be the last topic before we conclude today. We have a lot on. You remember we covered, you need to remember this shloka. One day the cowherd men eager to take a trip to worship Lord Shiva travelled by bullock carts to the Ambika forest and they worshipped Pashupati. Now ideally it's good if we have a 1.5 hour session. I'll cover all this in one session, but due to time constraints, I'll just give you an idea that tomorrow we will be covering specifically that verse where Pashupati is shown. Right? The Pashupati written in Srimad Bhagavatam is found in archaeology. The Pashupati in Srimad Bhagavatam is found in archaeological evidence, as an archaeological evidence, going back to 5000 years. That's what we're going to show tomorrow. We'll be covering in depth the shloka and show that and compare that with archaeological evidences of the Indus Valley civilization of Mohenjo-daro, Harappa, and all these ancient cities. Alright, so that's what we'll do tomorrow. But before we proceed, before we conclude for today, I'll show you one very interesting verse from Srimad Bhagavatam. This is Srimad Bhagavatam, Canto 10, Chapter 65. Now we are going, so far we have reached 2300 years. Can you see the Tamil literatures are 2300 years old? 2300 years old. So people during that period were aware of Viraha Bhakti, devotion and separation from Krishna. Okay, now we're going a little behind. We're going a little back to 2800 years ago. Okay, and these are cave paintings, fascinating cave paintings which will be really awe-inspiring. Now, if you remember, if you read Srimad Bhagavatam, there is this chapter 65 which describes the fight between Krishna and the king of Kashi. Have you heard, by any chance, the fight between Krishna and the king of Kashi?
Yes.
Krishna fights with the king of Kashi and he defeats them. And Paundraka was the ally of king of Kashi. King of Kashi and Paundraka on one side and Krishna on the other side. And Paundraka challenged Krishna for a fight. Okay, come on, you are not the real Krishna, I am the real Krishna. Paundraka used to say, I am the real Krishna. See, I have all these symbols. I have the chakra, I have all these. I am the real Vasudeva. You are a fake Vasudeva. There are many people even today, specifically in India, claiming themselves to be Krishna. Probably they are calling Krishna for a fight. Right? So, real Krishna, he says, I am the real Krishna. Paundraka says, I am the real Krishna. You are not the real Krishna. And Krishna says, okay, let's check it out. I'm coming. So there was a fight between Krishna and Paundraka. And the descriptions of Bhagavatam are very important when you study carefully. They are beautifully described. And it gives you a very interesting historical detail. You see here, Paundraka collected taxes from several kings. He foolishly believed the words of his friends who said Paundraka was God. During the absence of Balaram in Dwarka, Paundraka sent a message to Krishna stating that the symbols used by the latter, symbols used by Krishna, actually belong to him, such as the flag of Garuda. Now, this is also an important detail that when you study literatures, you will find there is a subject called as iconography. Now, what is iconography? It is the study of forms. Why someone is shown the way they are shown. That is called as iconography. So, in iconography, Krishna always carries the flag of Garuda. It's Krishna who carries the flag of Garuda, no one else. When you keep studying the historical records, we study the ancient deities, we study cave paintings and many other things, we find that it is only Krishna who carries the flag of Garuda. Okay? So, he carried a flag of Garuda and Paundraka declared that he was the real Vasudeva and not Krishna. He considered himself the supreme personality of Godhead. He demanded that Krishna stop using these symbols. Stop using these symbols. He considered, then Krishna waged war against Paundraka and killed him. So this is described in Srimad Bhagavatam. Now we'll go deeper into the shloka itself. According to the 66th chapter of, okay, just a moment. I will make sure we have 10%. Okay, great. According to the 66th chapter of Canto 10 of Srimad Bhagavatam, when Paundraka sent a message to Dwarka stating that he was God, Krishna declared war against him. Krishna had declared a war. Okay, let's see who is God. Right? Paundraka's chariot was made similar to Krishna's chariot, even with a flag of Garuda. He even replicated the chariot. He wanted the exact flag of Garuda as Krishna had. The flag of Garuda. And after giving many warnings to him to leave his false claim of pretending as Vasudeva, Krishna killed Paundraka by beheading off Paundraka's head with the Sudarshan Chakra. Okay? The son of the king of Kashi, Sudarshana, created a demon using black magic. Again, now we are going into a different direction. But just see this. Paundraka's chariot was made exactly in the way as Krishna's chariot, and it is described in Srimad Bhagavatam that Krishna came to Kashi in a chariot. He came in a chariot and he was holding a chakra and he released the chakra and killed Paundraka. And where this happened? Do you know where this happened? This happened in which place? Any guesses? Krishna came from Dwarka in a chariot and he comes to Kashi and kills the king of Kashi and kills Paundraka. Where does it happen? Any guesses? It happens in Kashi. It happens in Varanasi, Kashi. Because at the end, Krishna burns the city of Kashi and the city is completely destroyed. So, the point is this war between Krishna and Paundraka happens in the city of Kashi. And right next to Kashi, we have a fascinating historical detail. Now, this is a cave painting going back to 2800 years ago. This is a cave painting. We have got a computer sketch of that cave painting. I do have an original photo also. As you can see here in this cave painting, we have two horses here, and this is a stick which ties both horses. And this one you see here is the chariot's shape and form, and we have the wheels of the chariot. These are the front wheels and these are the back wheels, and this is chariot itself. And there is a person standing here, and he's holding a chakra. Now again, there will be questions that how you can say that this is Krishna. Will substantiate this. Because from the historical point of view, there has been no historical descriptions of any person standing on a chariot and holding a wheel and in the mood of attacking someone. And you know where this is found? That's the most interesting thing. This is found in Kashi. This is found in Kashi, dating back to 2800 years. And this place is called as Mirzapur. Mirzapur cave paintings. These are very famous. Mirzapur cave paintings. And in Mirzapur cave paintings, you have many, I would say, Adivasis. They were like primordial people who did not have advanced designing skills. So they just, with whatever available skills they had, they painted on the walls. And this is dated to 2800 years ago. Now we go a little behind. We have to conclude, but we'll just touch upon the Saraswati Devi. So, what happens during any historical project related to history and all that? We locate sites, we locate historical sites. Like if Mahabharata happened at a particular place, Krishna did a particular Leela in a particular place, we locate a site for excavation. Okay, and how do we locate a site for excavation? Okay, just to give you an idea, I'm also into history and archaeology. We do a lot of site study, mapping, research, excavation and all that. So before we go and map and locate any site, we use literatures, we use scriptures, because scriptures contain really valuable historical data. That there was a hill there, and right next to it there is a river, and next to it you will find this place, there was a kingdom. So these are all historical details. Then we apply technologies on top of it and locate a site. So similarly, so this is the kingdom map of Mahabharata period. Now we also have a kingdom map which we will be covering, I think tomorrow evening, Worldwide Vedic Heritage, where we will be showing the pre-Christian history of Europe. We will be showing the pre-Christian history of Europe, and we will be showing how that is connected to the Vedic culture of Bharat. So that's a seminar tomorrow evening at 5:30. So in that we will be covering